from Tony and Ria here. And as Katie mentioned in her presentation earlier this morning, no one is ever completely secure, and we know that. And that's because risk is ever changing. Different risks are coming, different risks are going. Our companies are changing, our organizations are changing, and it is really difficult to keep up with all those changes. As Tony and Ria have been out helping many companies on their path to preparing for CMMC, they've really got to know and understand some of the challenges that our small to medium-sized businesses are facing on a daily basis. They're going to talk with us about some of those challenges. They do a great presentation in person with some demos throughout this. Unfortunately, we can't have them present it in that same structure today, but they've adapted their presentation to still give you some really valuable information, make you aware of some of those risks, and start thinking about what action steps you can take as an organization to mitigate some of those risks. So I'm going to turn it back over now to Tony and Ria and let them take it away.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. Audio again is okay, I'm assuming, and you guys are stuck listening to myself and Ria again. We will, next slide, please. All right, so this is, gosh, I really wish we could give this presentation in person. We do have some really good demos. Maybe one day we're going to have to figure out a good iteration on how we can do this one remotely for everybody. But we'll certainly talk about it for some of us that that may or may not be on the call that have met us in person. You've probably seen or maybe heard us talk about some of these, but they are hidden risks and controls that they are associated with. When we talk about controls, that's CMMC or NIST controls. Understanding what those hidden risks are, and they're not very hidden. They're pretty simple. How we can get started, and then I'm just going to assume that everyone will be cheering at the end because we'll need some applause. Again, much better in person. And then Q&A. I have all my kids sitting here, so maybe they'll clap when I'm done. Next slide, please. Oh, we've already gone over about the speakers. Hidden risks and controls. Next slide.
So hidden risks. So what are hidden risks? Tony mentioned that we wanted this to be interactive, so feel free to blurt out a response. The link to this webinar gave us access to your microphones. No, I'm totally kidding. I think I heard someone say social media though. No, but really, I'm absolutely kidding. We'll look at 6 hidden risks, which surprisingly are fairly non-technical. If you could focus on one control, which one would it be? Personally, I would choose security and awareness training. I'm certain Tony would likely choose that one as well. We'll further elaborate on this later on in the presentation. Next slide, please.
All right. We've, gosh, Ria, I mean, she started with the jokes with microphone access, but we've provided these as freebies for everybody. USB drives, but media protection is prevalent in NIST and it's prevalent in CMMC. So you see CMMC media protection, and that is the MP.2.121. Portable storage devices, they are a hidden risk, absolutely a hidden risk. And if we look at the computer we see on the right-hand side, this looks just like my office setup. I have a laptop and a docking station with a monitor, and you wouldn't necessarily always see the ports on my laptop, the power port or a USB port, because they're funneled through that docking station. We see 2 USBs right in the middle. They are exactly the same. Both of them have actually a Linux platform on it, but I guess they're not exactly the same. One's a little bit different. And one of those USBs has, and if you look at the picture on the left, one of those USBs has a SD card slot in it. And it's if you see where the USB, where you typically plug it in, there's like a silver, like a metal box, and then that's an SD card. And we can actually write scripts to that SD card that if you plug that in, it will run an executable on your computer, and we would be able to gain remote access, grab passwords, all sorts of stuff. And these aren't hard to get within facilities. People plug these in all the time. You can do this by writing wedding pictures on it, by writing financials on it, and people will plug this in to try to find the rightful owner or just be curious. So, and people always ask too, they say, oh, so we can never use USB drives again. Nope, I have a USB drive. I still use it. I'm probably more paranoid than most when I check. But there's also trusted sources, right? If my boss gave me a USB drive and said, hey, this is directly from me, and she said, you need to plug this in and you know, download these sheets, I would do that. If I found a USB that said wedding pictures on it, I would feel very terrible for someone that lost wedding pictures if there was really wedding pictures on there, but I probably wouldn't even probably pick it up. I would just walk by. But USBs, and they're common, they're everywhere. People still absolutely use them. Next slide, please. USBs are, all right. Ria?
So hidden risks within our social media. This is an emerging risk. The photo on the left is Kanye West. It's actually a video, and it shows him typing in his passcode of 0000 to unlock his phone. So now the odds of me gaining access to his phone is slim, but it does give me a glimpse of how Kanye perceives passwords. So with that in mind, you can Google or use some other open source means to gather more information and eventually try to access some of his different accounts using basic passwords. And so that leads us into the photo on the right, and that was taken for an article by the Associated Press at the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. This may not have drawn a lot of scrutiny on its own, but this was published before the whole false ballistic missile alert that happened in Hawaii. And afterwards, this photo was highlighted because of how much information the picture reveals. The post-it on one of the monitors actually shows his password. We also have a nice view of his badge, the document he was working on in the lower screen. So there's a lot of information in this picture that we may not necessarily want to reveal. Photos, they're excellent for marketing purposes, but we do need to keep in mind that pictures that can be innocently taken by, you know, let's say the cleaning crew or the maintenance crew next to a Bradley tank, for example, and posted on social media. Now, is that going to reveal any proprietary designs or information? So this is a hidden risk that we want to be aware of. Next slide, please.
Hidden risks within the wireless network. This it relates to access control and authorizing wireless connections. So there's work that's done, recon work that's done just by looking at a wireless environment or scanning a wireless environment. Everyone gets on public Wi-Fi all the time, even me, at hotels, at airports, at Starbucks. There are ways that wireless network can be scanned and looked at and reviewed. This gives MAC address, it gives browsing history, or maybe browsing pages that are used. The two screenshots, and this is one of the more technical risks. The two screenshots we see here were real scans of a wireless network, and we can see MAC addresses and what's open and what's not open. There's all sorts of information that can be gathered from a wireless network, and wireless networks are also very commonly spoofed. So they're look just like the regular one, but they're not the regular one. So we have to be mindful of the wireless environment that we're working in. My work wireless environment, I'm very comfortable working in my work wireless. Same thing with my home wireless environment. Starbucks, not so much. So I think about what I'm gonna do if I get online at Starbucks. Next slide, please. This is probably one of my favorite ones, and I wish that we were there in person. Have I Been Pwned is a great website. HaveIBeenPwned.com. And if we were there in person, I would ask for a volunteer, and we probably wouldn't get one, but we would ask. And we've done this for a lot of different organizations. we'd see if we could find an old password for you guys, or see if we can find something. Have I Been Pwned is it absolutely talks to the importance of multi-factor, or the importance of changing passwords. This hacked data or breached data is becoming one of the easiest forms of the way that attackers gain access. It's as simple as it comes. No one's gotten this yet, so throw your open source hats on. That Hotmail address down there is mine. If you can find it, it's pretty old, but if you can find my original Hotmail address, let me know. Limit 1, I'll send you a $5 Starbucks gift card through Ashley. Yes, if you can find that, I will make sure I deliver on Starbucks for you. But breached data is really important, and it's important to be aware of what's out there. So Have I Been Pwned is a great resource to look into. Next slide.
Hidden risks with mobile devices. So we already know that mobile phone spoofing is growing in sophistication. My cell number starts with 73420, and so I'm seeing calls with the same area code and the same first 3 sequence of digits to make it appear to be a local call. I have answered one of those calls. I won't fall for it again, but we're seeing more targeting and specific attacks through mobile devices. For example, if the CFO, he's out of the office and he gets a call from a number that appears to be from the company's phone line, he's likely going to answer that call. And if he's in a hurry or distracted, he may actually provide some sensitive information as well. So this is just one of those risks that can be mitigated through continuous security and awareness training. Next slide, please.
All right, the search engine for exploits. Google has it's called the Google Hacking Database. You can Google that, but yeah, Google Hacking Database, and it is an exploit database of organizations that have exploits that have been publicly disclosed. This is part of their responsible disclosure program, and it's some of them are zero-day exploits that are out there, but it's to build awareness. And then there is Shodan. This searches for connected devices within homes, misconfigured servers. You hear a lot. Most organizations have some kind of database, whether that's they call a MongoDB or an Elastic database. This Shodan can identify if that database is publicly exposed. And a lot of times you hear about, oh, this company was breached. Well, a lot of times too, it could just be a database that was misconfigured and people were able to download data from a public database. And if we jump to the next, I think it's the next slide. Yeah, this is it. Public databases. You can Google this one as well. Pentagon misconfigured S3 buckets. That's true. And they did misconfigure a Amazon Web Services S3 bucket, and it exposed data. So that's done through sites like Shodan that can show misconfigured, again, databases or servers. The Google search very at the bottom is site:/AmazonAWS.com. It was google.com, I think was the company, but you can punch your company name into there. And it'll give you potential risks with FTPs or risks within the cloud. Cloud configurations, cloud continues to advance, and more organizations are going into the cloud. Organizations that are just starting are really almost cloud native, where they don't have a lot of on-prem infrastructure. If you don't configure those cloud databases accurately, there's risk that the data can be exposed in a public environment. And this is really for all cloud environments, no matter what you're using. If it's misconfigured, the data could be easily accessible, because again, it's in the cloud, so you can get to it through URL searches. We see the URL search there as well, kind of manipulating the URL. But the cloud environment is always fun. So is Shodan. Again, if we were in public, I'd love to see if someone wanted to test those out, and we can put those on the screen next time. Next slide, please. And now we're into understanding the hidden risks. Next slide. This is interesting. So there's a lot of simple hidden risks. I mean, none of them are that technical. So people, where do I start? Well, I'm going to buy a really high-tech system to keep users out, and it's going to give me threat detection software with multiple firewalls, and I'm going to virtualize the old stuff. I'm going to put everything in the cloud like Tony just said, but I'm going to make sure it's completely locked down. Nope. Every security conference we go to, there's some new blockchain or AI, right? Oh my goodness, so many where to start. Blockchain and AI, they got to be the answers. They're not. It's much more simpler than that. So let's go to the next slide and see. I did hear, though, the blockchain is supposed to solve everything. Next slide. All right. Broken record, but what if we trained the team? What if we talked to the team about the presentation that we walked through today with the capabilities and maturity levels for awareness and training ranging from 2 to 4? Talk to the team about hidden risks with USBs, risks with mobile devices. This presentation is recorded, so you will have a recording of it. Ria gets mad every time I bring this up. There's also a YouTube video out there where we show an example of the mobile phone exploit. So you can find that mobile phone exploit too as well out there on YouTube. And then teach your team to ask and push back with respect if they come back with a security question. All right. Next slide, please.
So to continue along with what Tony was saying, employees, they're always our first line of defense, which is why awareness and training is so critical, so that employees will understand the organization's security policies and procedures. If we were to look at the numbers now, 94% of malware is still delivered via phishing email. So we want our employees to be aware of these types of attack vectors so that they know what to look for in a phishing email and what steps need to be taken if they accidentally click on an embedded link in the email, more so now than ever since a lot of us are working from home these days. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
All right. So how can we get started? This is exactly, not to sound like a broken record, but this is what we talked about. This is what we talked about earlier. So make sure that we know what set of controls we're going to implement, NIST or ISO 27001 or CMMC. Select the set of controls. That's our starting point. Cost for certification should be reasonable. And there's leveraging and use of those free online tools. Use those, and don't jump right to a consultant. We love to support as many people as we can, but I also tell use those free tools when they're available to you guys. I think they're going to be I think they're going to be important. What about talking to your team about cybersecurity? What about playing this video? What about playing this video for them? That I think will also be a great tool to provide. Look up the YouTube video. Ria, you want to send the link out to the YouTube video?
I think I took it down. I don't know.
You lost it? Yeah. It is a good YouTube video where we walk through mobile phone spoofing, and we do a good example of a CEO and a CFO. So next slide, please. This is it. I don't have no one's around. I'm going to assume that everybody is cheering there loudly for a good job, but thank you guys. I really appreciate you hanging in there. I know we presented twice in a row, and that's always a little difficult for everyone to listen to. But thank you all. And Ashley, if there's any questions, obviously we'll be happy to go through any of them.
Perfect. Thank you both. The only